He was just a 6A boy with muddy boots, a missing front tooth, and a heart bigger than the orchard he called his playground. When Noah found the golden dog tangled in the wire fence, bleeding and broken, something changed. He didn't just hear her whimper, he felt it in his soul. What he did next, it didn't just save a life. It uncovered a secret someone would kill to keep hidden, and proved that sometimes the smallest hands carry the biggest miracles. Autumn Valley, Oregon, was quiet beneath a curtain of October rain. The sky hung heavy with clouds, the kind that filtered sunlight into a soft silver glow. The first real drizzle of the season whispered across the rooftops, kissed the apple trees, and left dew clinging to every leaf like breath on glass. In a little white house at the edge of town, 6-year-old Noah Carter was already lacing up his 2 large red rubber boots, jacket sleeves falling past his wrists, his cheeks flushed with the promise of adventure. Noah was the kind of boy who talked to ants, gave names to clouds, and believed every puddle was a portal to somewhere else. Small for his age, but bright-eyed and bold, he had tousled honey-colored hair and a front tooth missing from a fall off the back porch last summer. Where other kids watched cartoons, Noah studied squirrels and made forts out of logs. Behind his house stretched acres of wild orchard, rows upon rows of old apple trees, knotted and heavy with fruit, where the wind told stories, if you knew how to listen. Inside his mother, Emily Carter leaned against the kitchen counter in navy scrubs, a steaming mug of weak coffee in hand. Her face bore the quiet fatigue of someone who worked 12-hour night shifts and still made it home in time to check math homework. She was tall with auburn hair. She rarely had time to style and calm gray eyes that could soothe even the most frightened patient. A single mother since her husband left 3 years ago, she held the house together with determination, duct tape, and an unspoken promise to always show up no matter how tired. Back before sunset, little explorer, she said, kneeling to zip his coat, and stay out of the deep orchard. I know, Mom. Noah grinned, voice bright, though still husky from sleep. I'm just going to map the Eastern Territories. Might spot the Raccoon King. Emily laughed softly, brushing a smudge from his cheek. Tell him I said hello. The screen door creaked open, and Noah stepped out into the scent of wet leaves and ripening apples. The orchard awaited golden dripping and whispering. His boots squelched in the mud as he darted between the rows, arms spread like wings, dodging low-hanging branches, and narrating his journey in the voice of a brave adventurer. Captain Carter, braving the great apple jungle. He said aloud to no one, armed with courage and 2 emergency granola bars. He wandered deeper than usual, following a butterfly that didn't mind the rain. His breath fogged in the cooling air, and he stopped to investigate an oddly shaped apple on the ground, bitten into then abandoned. That's when he heard it. A whimper. Noah froze. It wasn't the high-pitched bark of a squirrel or the screech of a jay. It was soft broken, a sound of pain. He turned his head listening. There it was again, near the overgrown fence at the very edge of the orchard where the apple trees gave way to tangled underbrush and wild blackberry vines. Noah's heart thudded in his chest. He didn't feel scared, not yet, just curious. Carefully he stepped toward the noise, brushing past wet branches and stepping over a fallen log. And then he saw her, a dog caught in the old wire fence, half submerged in the mud, her golden coat matted and soaked. She was large, though her ribs showed through her sides. The wire had wrapped cruelly around her back leg, biting deep, and her eyes, big and brown, met Noah's with something that made his chest tighten. She didn't bark, she didn't growl. She just whimpered once more, then lay still. Noah inched closer. The rain pattered on his hood as he crouched, mud soaking into his knees. "You're hurt," he whispered. The dog looked at him without fear, just exhaustion. He could see the tremble in her muscles, the way her breathing came in sharp, shallow bursts. She tried to shift, and a fresh line of red welled along her leg. Her belly, Noah noticed, was swollen, not with hunger but something else. Round 2 round. "You're gonna have babies," he murmured, awe and worry mixing in his voice. He knelt there in the rain, the world around him, fading to silence but for the soft shiver of leaves and the beating of his own heart. The dog didn't move again. She only blinked once, then closed her eyes. Noah stayed still for a long time, watching the rain run down her fur in rivulets, the way the wind tugged gently at the tall grass. His fists clenched and unclenched in the pockets of his jacket. He didn't know her name. He didn't know where she came from, or who had hurt her, or why she had ended up here, tangled and bleeding in the far edge of his world. But he knew one thing. She needed help. Rain, still tapped gently on the tin roof of the orchard, shed a steady rhythm that blurred time as Noah knelt beside the wounded golden retriever. He had never seen an animal so still and so broken, yet her eyes, half-lidded with pain, held a quiet light, like the last warmth of sunset trapped behind clouds. That light stirred something inside him. He took off his jacket and draped it gently over her side. The dog didn't flinch. She just breathed slow and ragged. Noah stood, his heart thudding against his ribs. He glanced toward the house where a faint kitchen light glowed behind drawn curtains. He knew his mother was still asleep after her night shift. He had time, but not much. The dog wouldn't last long in the cold. Step by cautious step, Noah returned to the house through the orchard path, silent as a leaf falling in wind. He ducked into the garage, snatched an old fleece blanket from the shelf, filled a plastic bowl with water from the tap, and found a flashlight from the junk drawer. His hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the electric rush of responsibility. He felt like a spy or a knight. Back in the shed, he laid the blanket beside the dog, now shivering harder than before. He poured the water. When she made no move, he slid the bowl closer. She sniffed it once, then slowly began to drink. Noah exhaled in relief. "You're okay," he whispered. "You're safe now." He watched her for a long moment. Her fur was thick but tangled, a warm golden hue, dulled by dirt and rain. Her body was large, strong-boned, clearly once well-fed, but the real giveaway was her collar, a thick leather band fastened with a silver buckle. It was military grade, the kind used by service animals, and on the flat metal plate, scratched so deeply it looked intentional, was the ghost of a name. Noah reached out, running a finger gently across the lettering. He could barely make out the first letter, M. The rest was a blur of gouges and rust. "I don't know who you were," he said softly, "but you don't have to be her anymore. I think I'll call you Milo." The name felt right. Milo, like sunshine after rain. Like someone who had seen too much but still carried light. The dog looked at him, then really looked, and Noah swore she understood. As Milo rested, Noah checked the wound again. The barbed wire had torn a shallow gash in her hind leg, and the swelling around it made him wince. His mother had taught him the basics of cleaning a scrape. He'd watched her fix his knees more times than he could count. He rummaged through a toolbox, found an old first aid kit with gauze and antiseptic wipes, and returned. The cleaning was slow, clumsy. Noah spoke the whole time, mostly to distract himself, telling Milo stories of the orchard and how he once found a squirrel with a piece of Pop-Tart in its mouth. Milo didn't move much except for the occasional flick of her ears or blink of her eyes. As he bandaged her leg, Noah noticed her belly again. It was round, too round for a dog her size. He gently touched the side, and Milo let out a soft whine, but not one of pain. A tremble moved through her, and Noah felt a faint kick beneath his palm. "You're gonna be a mom," he whispered, awestruck. He sat back on his heels. This wasn't just a lost dog. This was someone's partner. maybe someone in the military, and now someone's mother. He knew what his mom would say. You should have told me, but this felt too big for that. Too delicate. He didn't want Milo taken away, especially not now. So he made a decision. I'll take care of you, he said quietly. I promise. Noah woke before dawn the next day, slipping out of bed with the stealth of a raccoon. His mother's door was still closed, soft snores audible from inside. He tiptoed across the kitchen, grabbed an apple and 2 slices of ham from the fridge and made his way to the shed. Milo was awake, head lifted, eyes alert. She wagged her tail just once when she saw him. Noah knelt beside her, placed the apple and ham on a paper towel and poured fresh water. It's breakfast, he said. Kind of. As she ate, he told her his plan. You stay here for now. I'll bring you food and stuff, and when you feel better, maybe we can find your old person. Or not. You don't have to go back if you don't want to. That evening, when his mom left for work again, Noah found a second blanket in the guest room closet and a flashlight with working batteries. He added both to the shed along with an old pillow. He sat with Milo until the crickets began to sing and stars blinked through the misty sky. I'll come back tomorrow, he whispered as he gently stroked her head. You'll see. That night, curled in bed, Noah imagined what Milo had seen before she ended up in the orchard. He pictured deserts and helicopters, soldiers with radios and long silent nights under tents. He wondered if she missed them, or if she was trying to forget. In his chest, that small warm promise settled deeper. He would keep her safe no matter what. The rain had passed, leaving behind a crisp clarity that made the leaves sparkle in the morning light. Autumn Valley looked clean and new under the washed sky, but for Noah Carter, the world had subtly shifted. There was something heavier in the air that day, something he couldn't name. He had just returned from checking on Milo. The golden retriever had eaten a full can of tuna, wagged her tail a little, and had even shifted positions without whimpering. Her wound looked better. Healing. She was safe, tucked inside the old shed. Noah had scrubbed the floor and laid down a thicker layer of blankets, creating a little nest. She licked his cheek before he left, and that made everything feel worth it. Back inside the house, Noah washed his hands quickly and joined his mother at the breakfast table. Emily Carter, still in her scrub pants, sat with a coffee mug cradled between both hands. Her expression was soft but observant. She had noticed the smudges of mud on his sleeves, the second apple missing from the fridge, and the fact that Noah had been waking earlier than usual. "You've been spending a lot of time outside," she said, casually, sipping her coffee. "Anything I should know?" Noah shook his head, eyes wide. "Just exploring." Emily smiled faintly, but her fingers tapped her mug in that quiet rhythmic way that meant she was thinking hard. She'd seen it before, this type of focused energy in her patients. Noah was hiding something. She just didn't know if it was harmless or not. Later that afternoon, while Emily went to the clinic for a quick shift, Noah returned to the shed with a jar of peanut butter and some torn-up bread. Milo looked better again. Her breathing was easier, and she even barked softly when he entered a low, gravelly sound that made him jump and laugh at the same time. "You're getting stronger," he told her. "That's good. But we still have to be careful." Noah didn't know why he said it. It just felt true. The next day, the sky had turned cloudy again, but the forecast hadn't called for rain. Autumn wind pushed leaves in spirals across the roads. As Noah walked home from school with his backpack bumping lightly against his back, he noticed the car before he noticed the man. It was parked halfway down the street from his house, a black SUV newer than any car in their neighborhood, with tinted windows and spotless tires. It didn't belong. Then the man stepped out. He was tall and broad-shouldered, wearing a long, dark raincoat that looked too heavy for the mild chill. His face was narrow, clean-shaven, with pale skin and deep-set eyes that moved slowly, methodically. His black boots didn't make a sound on the pavement. He didn't smile when he approached. Noah just looked down with that same quiet intensity. "You live around here?" the man asked. His voice was smooth, polite, but hollow. It reminded Noah of the voice on warning messages at the airport. Noah nodded. "Just up the street, I'm looking for a dog," the man said. "A golden retriever. Female injured, might be pregnant. Dangerous." The words dropped like stones. Noah blinked up at him. "Have you seen one?" "No." Noah replied too fast. The man's eyes narrowed just slightly. "You sure? A dog like that could be trouble, could hurt someone. If you do see her, you need to tell an adult, or, better yet, tell me." He pulled a card from his pocket and held it out. It was matte black. No logo, just a phone number, printed numbers, only, no name. "My name's Mr. Klayman." The man added, though the card didn't confirm it. "It's very important. I find that dog." Noah took the card, feeling the weight of it in his small palm. He nodded again. "Okay." Klayman studied him for a beat longer, then nodded and turned back to his SUV. Within seconds he was gone, the vehicle gliding down the road without a sound. Noah didn't move until the car was out of sight. Then he turned and ran, cutting through backyards and hopping fences until he reached the orchard. His chest burned, not from the running but from fear. Inside the shed, Milo stirred when he burst in. She lifted her head, sensing his distress, and gave a low whine. Noah collapsed beside her, clutching the card in one hand. "He's looking for you," he whispered. "He said you're dangerous, but I know that's not true." Milo placed her head in his lap and he stroked her ears. He noticed her eyes again, those warm, knowing eyes. There was nothing dangerous in them, only sadness and something else, trust. Later that evening, when Emily returned, she found Noah already in bed, the light still on. He looked up from his book as she entered. "You okay, baby?" she asked, brushing hair from his forehead. "Yeah," he said. "Just tired." She paused, then sat beside him. "There was someone in the neighborhood today, asking about a dog. Big man, black coat, you see him?" Noah's heart jumped. "Yeah, he asked me too." Emily frowned. "What did you tell him?" "I said I didn't see anything." He looked up at her, then eyes wide and too honest. He felt scary, Mom. Like something wasn't right. Emily stayed silent for a moment, watching her son carefully. She had been right. He was hiding something. But more than that, he was protecting something. "All right," she said softly. Standing. "Well, if you do see a dog, just make sure you're careful." "Okay." Noah nodded, clutching the blanket tight under his chin. That night, as wind scraped against the window panes and leaves danced across the porch, Noah lay awake with one thought repeating in his mind. Whatever that man was looking for, he couldn't have her. The next morning dawned quiet and pale, a thick fog hugging the base of the orchard trees like a blanket that didn't want to let go. Noah Carter stirred in bed long before the alarm clock could blink its red numbers to life. He had barely slept, the weight of the mysterious visit from Mr. Klayman still heavy in his chest. But more than fear, it was the gnawing sense of purpose that pushed him out of bed and into his jeans and sweatshirt before the sun was even fully up. By the time his mom left for work with a kiss on the forehead and a tired smile, Noah was already slipping through the back door with a granola bar, a flashlight, and his resolve. The orchard greeted him with silence, broken only by the occasional flap of a bird's wing or the crunch of frost under his boots. Milo was waiting. The golden retriever sat at the entrance to the shed, her fur brushed by morning dew, eyes alert and brighter than they'd ever been. There was a strength returning to her now, still careful, still fragile, but no longer broken. "Hey, girl," Noah whispered, kneeling to pet her. "Did you sleep okay?" Milo's response was a low whine and a nudge of her nose against his palm. Then, without warning, she tested her bandaged leg and began limping out of the shed. Not away from him, toward something Milo he called, standing quickly. "Where are you going?" She glanced back at him once, and it was all the encouragement he needed. He followed. She led him past the orchard's edge where the neatly planted apple trees faded into a thinner, more untamed patch of woods. It was a small, overgrown glen behind the far side of their property line, one Noah had only ever explored in pretend missions. Milo's gait was slow but determined, and she stopped only when they reached the base of an old maple tree, with roots like twisted fingers clutching the earth. There she began to dig. Noah knelt beside her, unsure what they were looking for, but his fingers found the soil, soft, recently disturbed. After a few minutes of careful digging, his hand struck something hard and cold. He brushed away dirt to reveal a small dented metal box. The latch was rusted, but still intact. With trembling hands, he opened it. Inside were two things: a USB flash drive, ordinary-looking black with a chipped edge, and a photo. The picture was slightly weathered, the corners bent from years of concealment. It showed a younger Milo, her fur cleaner, shinier eyes just as sharp. She sat beside a man in military fatigues. He was tall with a square jaw and a confident stance, one arm around Milo's shoulders. The name stitched above his chest pocket read, "Pierce," and pinned just above it a silver badge marked with the insignia of the United States Army, Logan Pierce. Noah stared at the name, then at the face. The man's smile wasn't just proud, it was protective, as if Milo was more than just a dog. She was a partner. Noah breathed. "This was your person." She let out a soft exhale, resting her head on the edge of the box, eyes distant. Noah clutched the photo and the USB in one hand and looked at her. "We have to find out what's on this. Maybe it's why that guy's after you." That night, after Emily had gone to bed and the house was silent, Noah snuck back into the living room and grabbed the house phone. He stared at it for a long time before dialing a number from memory. Caleb answered on the second ring. "Hello? Hey, it's me." Noah whispered, "I need your help. But you can't tell anyone." Caleb Johnson. Noah's older cousin was 14, tall and lanky, with a head of unruly black curls and an ever-present hoodie. He had glasses that were always sliding down his nose and fingers that couldn't stay still if they tried. He lived in the next town over and was known in their family as the tech whiz, capable of building a computer out of leftover microwave parts. Or so the stories went. Caleb sounded confused. "Is everything okay? I found something in the woods." "It's important. I need to know what's on this USB." There was a pause, the sound of keys clacking in the background. "You found it in the woods. It was with a picture, a soldier and a dog. I think it's government stuff." Caleb didn't laugh, which surprised Noah. "Can you get it to me?" he asked instead. "My mom's working all day tomorrow. If you can come by, I can check it out. I'll figure it out," Noah said. "Thanks, Caleb." He hung up with hands still shaking. Back in bed, the photo lay under his pillow, the flash drive hidden in a sock drawer. Outside, the wind stirred the trees, and somewhere in the dark, Milo kept her silent watch in the shed. The memory of a man named Logan Pierce now stitched into the story she hadn't yet told. The afternoon sun spilled through Caleb's bedroom window in muted streaks, catching the soft dust in the air and casting shadows across his cluttered workspace. Circuit boards, LED strips, and open laptops lay scattered in carefully chaotic arrangement. At the center of it all sat Caleb Johnson, a lanky 14-year-old with restless fingers, thick-rimmed glasses, and an uncanny ability to make machines speak. Across from him sat Noah, quiet, nervous, clutching the USB drive like it was the last leaf in a storm. "You're sure this was buried with a picture?" Caleb asked, adjusting the flash drive in his fingers. Noah nodded. It was in a metal box, the dog Milo. She dug it up behind the orchard. Caleb inserted the drive into his computer. His posture straightened almost immediately. "Encrypted," he murmured. "Already." Opening a terminal window. Minutes passed in near silence, save for the gentle tapping of keys and the soft hum of Caleb's cooling fan. Then a low beep. "I'm in." Noah leaned closer. The folders were sparse but deliberate. Pierce. Logs. Export. Documents. Witness. Notes. Caleb clicked the first folder. There, among scanned forms and text documents, was a single video file labeled Confidential, Last Log MP4. Caleb opened it. The video flickered to life, dimly lit, slightly grainy. A man in military fatigues sat before the camera, early 30s. Strong features, short dark hair, a badge on his chest that read, Pierce. "My name is Captain Logan." Pierce, he said, voice firm but weary. ID number 47683. I've compiled evidence confirming that unauthorized military equipment, including advanced jamming tech and portable drone disruptors, has been diverted from our supply chain and sold through off-the-books channels. Some of these weapons are appearing in conflict zones where they shouldn't be. He paused. His eyes flicked to the side of the frame where a golden retriever sat quietly, ears alert. "I don't know who I can trust anymore." Pierce continued. "If you're seeing this, it means I didn't make it. Milo, my K9. Partner has been trained to carry this information. She's been given escape protocols. She'll run. She'll hide, and she'll survive." The screen blinked black. Noah's voice was barely a whisper. "That's her. That's Milo." Caleb clicked into the next folder. Export Awk Documents. Dozens of scanned files appeared, many marked with red, confidential stamps bearing serial numbers and item codes, radio disruptors, encrypted comms gear, satellite GPS masks. Some had destination locations that didn't match the original manifests. "I've seen some of these device names in articles about tech smuggling," Caleb muttered. "These are real and dangerous." The third folder. Witness notes contained a list of audio memos and incident logs. In one, Pierce described an argument with a superior officer who had dismissed his concerns. In another, he named 2 other servicemen who had vanished after raising similar suspicions. The final note was short and heavy. "They know I'm watching. I've stopped sleeping. If anything happens to me, Milo has everything. She knows where to go." Caleb leaned back in his chair, stunned. "This isn't just evidence," he said. "It's a whistleblower's final act." Noah stared at the screen, his stomach twisting. "So he's really gone?" "Looks like it," Caleb said quietly. "There's no other logs after that last one. No backup entries, no confirmation he ever got to report this up. The chain," Noah nodded slowly, the weight of it settling on him like fog. "And Milo got away." "Yeah," Caleb replied, glancing at the paused frame where Milo sat beside Pierce. "She carried everything he couldn't." They didn't speak for a long while. Outside, the wind rustled the trees, and a crow passed across the light shadowing the desk for a brief second. Finally, Caleb said, "This data is dangerous and important. If the people involved know it's still out there, they'll do anything to get it back." Noah held the photo of Logan and Milo, now slightly wrinkled at the edges. "Then we keep it safe. And we figure out what to do with it." Caleb added, "But carefully. These aren't just bad people, Noah. These are trained, funded, and connected." Noah looked down at the flash drive now, copied and encrypted on Caleb's system. Milo had carried it this far. Now it was their turn. The sky cracked open with a rumble that seemed to shake the floorboards of the old shed. Rain fell in dense diagonal sheets, hammering the tin roof in waves of sound that masked the rustling of leaves and the distant crunch of tires over gravel. The air was thick with ozone. The wind howled like a warning, and inside the musty darkness, Noah Carter pressed a damp towel against Milo's flank and whispered, "You're gonna be okay, girl. I promise." Milo's breathing was labored. Her belly heaved with each contraction, and her golden fur was slick with sweat and rainwater. Lightning flashed, illuminating the inside of the derelict farm shed like a photograph. A wheelbarrow, rusted through shelves, collapsed, and in the corner, a nest made of old hay and blankets where the golden retriever now lay trembling. They hadn't made it back to Noah's orchard. As soon as he and Caleb had left Caleb's house, they'd noticed the black SUV again. Two of them, this time, creeping silently down the block. The boys didn't hesitate. They cut through alleyways and woods, guiding Milo to the only place they thought no one would look, the abandoned Jensen barn on the outskirts of town. The barn had once belonged to a reclusive farmer who vanished years ago, and though most kids thought it was haunted, Caleb knew it had a working lock and just enough shelter to protect them. Now, in the middle of a storm with Milo and labor and danger closing in, it was their only hope. Caleb, soaked to the bone, and pale beneath his glasses, knelt beside Noah. "She's pushing," he said. "I think I see one." Milo let out a low guttural cry, and with a final effort the first puppy slid onto the blankets. Small, wet, and unmoving Noah's heart stuttered. "Is it?" Caleb grabbed a clean rag, wiped the pup's nose and mouth, then gently rubbed its tiny body. The pup shuddered once, then let out a faint squeal. "He's breathing!" Caleb exclaimed, holding the tiny creature up in the lantern light. Milo, exhausted but alert, began licking the puppy, nudging him toward her belly. Thunder cracked again. Closer this time. The ground shook faintly. Caleb's head snapped toward the window slit. "We don't have long," he muttered. "I think I saw someone in the woods earlier." "You think it's him?" Noah asked. Caleb didn't answer. A second puppy arrived, this one slightly larger, its fur almost white. The process was quicker this time. Milo didn't cry out as much, she was focused, instinctual. The boys worked together, wiping warming positioning. And then came the third. Noah's breath caught. This one was the smallest, barely the size of his hand. She was completely still. "Come on," he whispered, rubbing her side. "Please, nothing." Caleb knelt beside him. "Keep rubbing. Gently." Milo whimpered. She tried to reach the pup, but her body was too weak. Her eyes were fixed on Noah's hands. "I've got her," he said. A moment later, the pup twitched, then squeaked. Relief crashed over them like another wave of thunder. And then, footsteps. Crunching slow, deliberate. Caleb turned off the lantern with a swift click. Shadows swallowed the room. "They're here." Noah clutched the smallest pup to his chest, heart hammering. Milo raised her head, eyes glinting in the dark ears, pricked despite her exhaustion. A growl rumbled low in her throat. The barn door creaked. Through a slit in the wall, Caleb saw the silhouette of a man, tall, broad trench coat, flapping in the wind. Behind him, two more figures fanned out. One carried a flashlight. The other, a rifle. "It's," Clayman Caleb hissed, and he brought company. The door started to open. Then, "Federal agent, drop your weapon." A woman's voice, strong and authoritative, cut through the storm like a blade. The barn exploded into chaos. Yelling movement. A flashlight dropped and spun in the mud. Gunfire cracked once, twice. Caleb dragged Noah down behind the wheelbarrow as Milo barked furiously despite her condition. A figure in black crashed through the barn door, but he was immediately tackled by someone in a dark, tactical uniform, short auburn hair, lean frame, voice full of command. "Get them out," secure the perimeter. Noah blinked up at her. Who are you? The woman knelt beside him. Name's Agent Harper. I worked with Captain Pierce. I've been tracking Clayman since he went rogue. Her eyes softened when she saw Milo and the pups. You did good, kid. Real good. Caleb stepped forward, still gripping the copy of the USB in his pocket. We have the evidence. Everything. Pierce recorded. Harper nodded once. Then we end this tonight. Outside, Clayman and his men were already subdued. The SUV engine sat silent, their keys removed. Flashlights danced through the woods as Harper's team secured the area. Inside the barn, Noah knelt beside Milo, who was now curled protectively around her newborns. Her breathing was calmer. Steady, her eyes locked with his one last time. You're safe now, he whispered. The morning after the storm brought a strange kind of quiet, neither heavy nor empty, but filled with the kind of hush that follows the end of something big. The barn, now lit with soft autumn sunlight, bore no trace of the frantic night it had endured. Rainwater still dripped from the eaves, but the threat had passed. Milo lay on a clean blanket beside her 3 newborns, their tiny forms curled close to her belly. One of them, the smallest, let out a squeaky yawn and wiggled against her sibling's side. Noah sat nearby, cross-legged and quiet, his hand resting on Milo's paw. You did good, he whispered. Agent Harper stood at the barn's threshold, arms crossed as she watched the boy and the dog. Her black tactical gear was now replaced with a simple navy blue windbreaker. Her auburn hair, streaked with silver at the temples, was pulled back into a tight braid. She had the posture of someone used to standing alone, but this morning her expression was softer. No longer the calculating edge of a federal agent, but something closer to empathy. Are they going to be okay? Noah asked her. They're going to be more than okay, Harper replied, stepping inside. We're taking them to the Federal K-9 Recovery and Training Center in Asheville. Top care security and full medical evaluation. Milo's earned it. Noah nodded, but there was something uncertain in his eyes. Harper knelt beside him. You kept her safe. You saved her pups, and you carried the truth when nobody else could. That matters. He swallowed hard, and Mr. Clayman Harper's tone shifted. He's in custody, along with 2 of his operatives. There'll be more arrests once we finish processing the data. Your cousin Caleb's copy matched the files Logan sent me before he disappeared. What you found completed the case. Caleb, standing a few feet away with a clipboard in one hand and a military-grade external hard drive in the other, glanced over. His curls were damp, his glasses slightly crooked, but he looked older somehow. No longer just the tech nerd from Brookpine, but a kid who had touched something big and hadn't flinched. Someone from the Pentagon called me this morning, he said, clearing his throat. They're offering me a scholarship. Some kind of national STEM program. Noah's jaw dropped. Seriously? Caleb grinned, rubbing the back of his neck. They want me to come to D.C. next summer. Shadow engineers learn security protocols, build cool stuff. I guess. Harper chuckled. You earned it. From outside came the gentle hum of a black SUV pulling up the kind that once spelled danger, but now brought help. A tall man in a green vest stepped out holding a travel kennel and medical bag. This was Dr. Anton Rivers, K-9 specialist mid-40s with thick graying hair and a calming presence. He'd worked with military dogs for over 2 decades and had been one of Logan Pierce's closest allies. She's strong, he said, after examining Milo. But she needs rest. Lots of it, the puppies too. But they'll be safe with us. Noah stared at Milo. Can I visit her? Harper looked at Dr. Rivers, who gave a small nod. She's still government property, Harper said carefully. But we owe you something, Noah. I'll make sure you're cleared to visit. And when the time comes, if she's retired, well, we can talk about that. Noah's heart swelled with something he didn't yet have a word for. Gratitude, hope. Maybe something bigger. Emily arrived not long after, her face pale and her eyes red from worry. She had barely spoken when she stepped into the barn and saw her son sitting beside a dog with 3 tiny lives sleeping against her. Her breath caught in her throat. "Oh, Noah," she whispered, "what have you been through?" And in that moment she didn't see her 6-year-old boy. She saw someone who had protected something fragile and precious in the middle of chaos. Someone who had faced the dark and refused to run. After Hug's quiet explanations, and more tears than either would admit to later, Emily stepped aside with Agent Harper, while Noah helped Caleb pack the last of the documents. "You really think they'll keep Milo safe?" Noah asked Harper again before they loaded her into the van. "She's a hero," Harper said. "She saved a truth that could have stayed buried forever. That kind of courage doesn't go forgotten." Noah stepped up to Milo's side as they opened the kennel door. The dog stood slowly, her legs still unsteady, but she pressed her nose gently into Noah's chest. He wrapped his arms around her neck. "I'll never forget you," he whispered. "Ever, I promise." Milo licked his cheek. Once, then stepped into the kennel with a quiet dignity that felt like a soldier's last salute. The door closed. The latch clicked, and the SUV rolled away, fading into the tree line. That evening, back at the orchard, Emily made Noah his favorite grilled cheese with tomato soup. They sat in silence for a long time before she finally said, "I don't know everything you did, but I know this. You were brave and kind. That's what matters." Noah didn't answer. He looked out the kitchen window past the apple trees now bathed in golden twilight and whispered only to himself. She was brave too. Autumn in Brookpine had always brought the orchard to life. The apples were heavy and red with sugar. The breeze carried the scent of fallen leaves and ripe fruit, and the afternoons were dipped in golden light that made the trees look like they were burning with warmth instead of fire. Noah Carter stood under the oldest apple tree in the back row, the one his grandfather had planted decades ago. Its trunk gnarled and thick, its branches like arms outstretched. In his hands was a small wooden sign he'd made himself with Caleb's help. Burned into the wood were the words, "Milo's Tree." 3 months had passed since that stormy night. 3 long, strange, quiet months. Emily had started working fewer night shifts, deciding that whatever extra money she made wasn't worth missing the changes in her son. She had begun to see the way his shoulders had squared, how he listened more closely, how he asked different questions. She never once doubted his story, not after she met Agent Harper and saw the way the woman looked at Noah. Like he wasn't just a boy, like he had been through something only a few could ever understand. And now, on a Saturday just after lunch, a familiar black SUV rolled slowly down the gravel path to their backyard. Noah's breath caught. The driver stepped out first. Agent Harper in jeans and a light jacket. This time, her posture, still perfectly upright, was softened by a smile. Then the back doors opened. Milo jumped out, first landing with that same gentle grace that had never quite faded, even after all she'd endured. Her coat was sleek again, her eyes bright. A leather harness rested snug across her shoulders, marked with the words, "Reserve K9, Fort Asheville." And behind her tumbled 3 golden pups, nearly grown now. Their energy a rolling tide of fur and oversized paws. One darted to the nearest apple and tried to eat it whole. Another chased a leaf. The smallest, her coat paler than the others, her frame still delicate, ran straight to Noah. Noah knelt laughing as the puppy barreled into his chest, wagging so hard her entire body wiggled. He wrapped his arms around her, his voice thick. "You remember me." Emily stepped out onto the porch, wiping her hands on a towel. "That's the one, huh?" she said gently. Harper nodded. "The runt. We didn't think she'd make it through the first week, but she surprised everyone. She's not part of the program, Emily asked. Harper smiled. Too small, too attached, doesn't take commands well from anyone except your son. Emily looked at Noah, then back at the puppy. What's her name? Noah looked down at the bundle of joy in his lap. Sunny, he said without hesitation. Because she's the light that made it through the storm. Harper glanced at Emily. If it's all right with you. Emily didn't even wait. She's family, she said. Of course it's all right. Harper's smile widened, but there was a touch of emotion in her eyes. Milo will still be on reserve duty for a while, search and rescue, mostly, but every month we'll bring her back. She remembers this place. She remembers you. Noah. Noah stood brushing leaves from his knees and walked over to Milo. She sat patiently, tail thumping the earth, eyes never leaving his. He placed his hand gently on her chest. This will always be your home. One of the bigger puppies was now attempting to climb the fence. Caleb, who had shown up just in time on his bike as usual, ran to intercept, nearly tripping over his own feet. They're faster than my drone, he groaned. Harper laughed. I think your drone's jealous. Emily invited everyone inside for pie and cider. They sat around the kitchen table while Sunny napped under Noah's chair, her soft snores occasionally punctuated by puppy dreams. Caleb updated Harper on his DC, prep, and Harper promised she'd connect him with someone from the cybersecurity division. After dessert, they all stepped back outside. Milo trotted up to the apple tree where Noah had placed the sign. She sniffed the trunk once, then sat beside it as if claiming it with silent grace. The other two puppies circled nearby before sprawling in the grass. Noah knelt beside her again, the sun slanting through the branches above. One time you brought me hope, he said softly. Now, I get to do that for Sunny. Milo leaned her head against his, and in that moment under the apple tree that had seen seasons come and go, there were no secrets left, only bonds, only trust, only family. In the quiet orchard beneath the apple tree where courage met loyalty and storms gave way to sunlight, a simple truth revealed itself. Sometimes the smallest hands carry the greatest strength and the gentlest hearts protect the fiercest truths. Milo didn't just return with her pups, she came back with a reminder that even in the darkest moments, God plants seeds of hope. Noah, just a child, answered a silent call. Most grown hearts would have ignored. His bravery wasn't loud, but it echoed through every life he touched. Perhaps that's the miracle. We so often overlook the right soul placed in the right moment. Not by coincidence, but by divine design. Milo found Noah not because she was lost, but because God knew she needed someone pure enough to carry the truth and strong enough to protect it. In our lives, we may never face secret files or military plots, but we do face moments that ask for quiet bravery. A kind word, a hand offered, a truth defended. And in those moments, God moves through us, just like he did through Noah. So if this story touched your heart, take a moment to share it. Leave a comment to tell us your favorite part. Subscribe to stay with us as we tell more stories of light in the dark. And if you believe, as we do, that faith, family, and love can change the world, write amen in the comments. May God bless and protect you just as he watched over a boy, his dog, and a truth worth fighting for.